As somebody who sits through those hiring process to get those candidates, it's interesting because sometimes we have a marketing team, we have a tech team for our services, and sometimes the interviews we had for certain positions, it could be a hit or miss. And I sometimes wonder, have we lost out on maybe some good talent or good prospects for our team if that first interview didn't go so well? And it's interesting to hear that there's a niche now with coaches like you who help candidates kind of filter through that.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I think that where most people get caught up is that it's a competitive market out there, but it's kind of always been a competitive market. I would say that interviewing now is much different than it was like even in 2020, where because of like the economy where it's at now, every investment is getting under scrutiny at this point. So it's not necessary like you have to really come with like a really solid like business plan in the sense of like what are the gaps that you intend to fill if you're on that team, how you're going to get up and running quickly, wanting to know like bulletproof points based off of like how you intend to go and be their next best seller. So it's not as much about like culture fit anymore. Like obviously those things are still important, but it's more of like, okay, what's your game plan? Where have you done this before? And like, where's the proof in the pudding on where you can excel here?
Welcome to Harry Handles It, a podcast where we dive into the world of personal growth, success strategies, and everything in between. I'm your host, Harry Nalbandyan, and today we're going to chat with an incredible guest who has some amazing insights to share. Remember, no matter what life throws your way, I'm here to help you handle it. So let's get started. Good morning. Welcome to the Harry Handles It podcast. We got Scott Blostein today, who is a sales professional and a sales coach for tech professionals specifically. Scott, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Harry. Thanks for having me on. How you doing today?
Excellent, man. Excellent. Thank you for being here. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and what got you to the place you are today?
Yeah, no, totally. So I spent a decade in tech, working for some of the biggest tech companies on the planet. So worked for Oracle, Salesforce, Shopify, and then ClickUp. Had an amazing run throughout that process, but I've also been really entrepreneurial as well. So towards the end of my career, kind of got the itch to scratch to go and start my own business. So yeah, I transitioned. I started actually helping people land a similar career that I did, working for some of the best, while also teaching them some sales trainings that I was able to learn while I was going through that process, learning from the best as well. So yeah, no, it's been an exciting journey. And yeah, I've helped I've helped people land close to $6 million in on-target earnings from their jobs working together, and now they're thriving in their careers.
That's incredible. What was there a driving point or a moment where you knew that this leap into your own entrepreneurship and sales coaching was the path for you?
Yeah, like I mean, at the end of like that, I knew it was one of those things that I knew I would regret it if I never just at least tried. At the end of the day, I have had a really solid career in sales, so if it didn't work out, I could always like hop back into that world. But I would also be like remiss if I didn't even take the opportunity to go and try it as well. So yeah, I've been doing it for a year. Haven't looked back. Like the learning that I've done throughout the process has just been really reinvigorating and also really fulfilling as well.
And what makes a role in tech sales different than different sales industries like service sales, law firm sales, for example?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, it's I'd say look more it's dealing with like a B2B buyer per se.
Yeah.
So within that, there's a lot of complexities that go into that. So it could be everything from when you're more entry level, dealing with more small and medium sized businesses, or if you're more enterprise level, selling to some of the Fortune 500s of the world. So within those, there's a lot of different personas that you need to navigate, a lot of people that need to be bought in within the organization. So there's a couple of different things you're doing discovery based off of different levels of the organization and understanding what those pain points are to the buyer. Then ultimately on like the larger scale here, having to go through procurement and legal, which I'm pretty sure you're probably familiar with, to get those deals across the line as well. So it's very strategic. For some of these, they can be quick, short deal cycles, all the way to deal cycles that last 12 to 18 months.
And I mean, from a sales perspective, how do you keep the customer, the B2B, engaged throughout this 18-month process? Because isn't the old adage in sales, time kills all deals?
Time kills all deals, but also sometimes when you're selling to some of those larger more enterprise customers, it just takes a long time to get things done as well. I'm a firm believer that you have to show value at every step of the way. Really guide people through that process overall, especially if it's like you're bringing in a new form of technology. Being able just to show them the best way to buy from you, but also being able to get into all of those different levels engagement and get them excited about the opportunity. One of the big things that I have found that has helped me been so successful in my career is creating a mutual action plan. So showing, this is the end result. Maybe we know we're going to go live in at least a year from now. These are all the steps that you and the buyer are going to mutually agree upon on how we're going to get to that end goal. Usually, what I like to do is frame this not just from like a signature perspective, because as a sales rep, that's what you care about. But what the buyer really cares about is like, when's this thing that I'm buying going to solve my problems? So when you're positioning those mutual action plans, it's important that you have the buyer in mind and you can frame the actual contract execution in the middle. So then it just seems like it's a natural step, but then they have to go and meet like a customer success person for onboarding. Then there's implementation, and then there's like training the whole team. And those steps can take a little bit longer towards the end goal, which is what the client wants to get at the end of the day.
That's a great perspective. Looking at this from your current role of helping people get into sales tech jobs and your other role in actually selling some of these services, have you noticed, or is there one thing where you can turn a weak first interaction into a better, stronger, maybe second to help the person land the job or help the sales team land the deal?
I'm not quite sure I 100% follow. Do you mind just clarifying a little bit?
Yeah. So you help somebody land a tech interview. The first interview is a little weak. The candidate comes
Yeah.
out feeling, that they didn't hit their best shot.
Yeah.
You have strategies that people could use to help maybe get that second foot into the door and give them another shot?
Yeah. So typically, I like much like a sale, I think providing value at every step of the way really goes above and beyond in these situations. So, what I would do in this particular moment would be to send something in your follow up that resonates or helps course correct where you feel like you may have had like a weak point. So, for example, you don't have specific experience selling this type of product before. Well, then what I would probably do in this is follow up with like a 100-day plan on what you're planning on doing to get caught up to speed on the market, how you're going to attack the territory, how you're going to close revenue within that first 100 days. That's the sort of stuff that can make up for the gaps and show that you are prepared to get to be in the seat and to give them the confidence that you need. Like you want to make yourself the hire that like they have like the least amount of concern going forward with. You want to eliminate any risk when it comes to that being the right hire as well. So that's how you de-risk the situation as you're going through the hiring process.
And sitting on the other side of that table, as somebody who sits through those hiring process to get those candidates, it's interesting because sometimes we have a marketing team, we have a tech team for our services, and sometimes the interviews we had for certain positions, it could be a hit or miss. And I sometimes wonder, have we lost out on maybe some good talent or good prospects for our team if that first interview didn't go so well? And it's interesting to hear that there's a niche now with coaches like you who help candidates kind of filter through that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, look, I think that where most people get caught up is that it's a competitive market out there, but it's kind of always been a big competitive market. I would say that interviewing now is much different than it was like even in 2020, where because of like the economy where it's at now, every investment is getting under scrutiny at this point. So it's not necessary like you have to really come with like a really solid like business plan in the sense of like what are the gaps that you intend to fill if you're on that team, how you're going to get up and running quickly, wanting to know like bulletproof points based off of like how you intend to go and be, their next best seller. So it's not as much about like culture fit anymore. Like obviously those things are still important, but it's more of like, okay, what's your game plan? Where have you done this before? And like, where's the proof in the pudding on where you can excel here?
Big time. And as somebody who hires looking for that proof in the pudding, how does somebody get their start if they don't have that experience, if they don't have that proof behind them? How do they even get a start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, if you're a if you're like a junior person, so usually when you're like junior in sales, you go in as like a BDR or SDR. I was one of those people, and I had to
For
try
our,
and train.
for our viewers, what's a BDR SDR?
Oh yeah, it's a very good point. So BDR, SDR, these are the business development reps or sales development reps. Essentially, they're the ones that are phone calling 100 times a day to try and like book meetings for account executives. So yeah, they're spending a lot of time in the salt lines trying to figure this all out. It's an absolute grind, but it was also one of like the funnest parts of my career because I met some of my best friends from that experience. But that's usually where you start off. You're not doing the hard sales or the closing at this point, but you're doing like more of the meeting setting for a lot of these AEs, account executives. So ways that you can go and highlight how you would be a great BDR or SDR is really being able to focus in on things of like grit, because you need to have a lot of grit in those type of positions, as well as like coachability. Like that's a really big thing, is like they want to be able to see that you're coachable, that you can take feedback, that you can execute it as well. Also like general intelligence, like being able to showcase that. And then any times that you can also highlight like specific KPIs. So you may not have worked in a sales role before, but that's fine. It's an entry level position at the end of the day. How can you have shown that your efforts have made an impact in other jobs or other facets of your life? So ways that you can do this is like stack ranking yourself against your peers, or being able to way that you've shown that you've been able to implement things in various jobs that have like had a metric number associated to it. That's really what it is at the end of the day, is because sales is just such a numbers game.
It always is. And I want to use this to transition into some of the cold messaging you talked about. Some of the BDRs, SDRs, they're making 100 calls a day. From a business to consumer perspective, from our perspective, from the law firm perspective, we do a lot of cold messaging to the public because we are business to consumer, and it's a hit or miss. Is that cold messaging, does it still apply to people who are looking for an entry into tech jobs?
Oh, definitely. Like I'll have the same messaging for my like, look, you can make cold messaging really warm if you have the right amount of research on your prospective buyer or contact before heading into that call. So I learned this back in my business development rep days, and I implemented and have my clients implement it today. It's called 3x3 research. I didn't come up with it, but it's a good like philosophy to have when you're going through this process. And essentially, it does two things. One, it helps you find personalization, but it also helps you find it within like the right amount of time, so you're not spending hours trying to craft one email or like or phone call and whatnot. So you take 3 minutes and 3 minutes only to find three pieces of relevant information, either on like the prospective company that you're reaching after, the prospect itself, or like the industry, that you can lead with that level of information. And that's when you're coming in with like the personalization piece. So, for example, one of my clients, she was looking to transition from med device sales into healthcare tech sales, and she found out that the person who was the hiring manager for that role used to also be a registered dietitian, which she was as well in her previous life. So she led with that. And she also just so happened that it was the registered dietitians month. I don't know if it was actually a thing, but it was. And she led with like, hey, I saw you were a registered dietitian before, and you made a very similar transition into tech sales. I'm looking to do the same things as well. Like, would love for us to connect. Here's my proof points in terms of like the jobs that I've done with my current role right now. Can we book a meeting so we can learn more and see if it's a fit? Like right away, that messaging has gone from like, okay, I've actually took the time to do my research, as opposed to random person just reaching out and kind of hoping for the best.
Yeah, this is actually interesting because I had a conversation the other day with somebody who specializes in public relations for different individuals and companies, and she was talking about creating personalized messages to get into different spots to help the PR umbrella expand, right? And
Yeah.
she did explain this. The 3x3 was, those weren't the words she used, but It was essentially research who you're going to send this message to, why they would benefit from you sending this message to them, and what value would you add by pitching them this idea. And from her experience, she had found exponential benefit and closing rates from doing this approach versus the standard cold call or cold email. Have you found those kinds of exponential results to also follow in the tech sales world?
Yeah, like I think like yes, having like that level of personalization is key. Like what I also tell people though is like don't just solely rely on like one channel. Like when you're using this, or even like one message for that matter, like even when you're prospecting in general, it takes like 12 to 15 touch points before someone even like responds to you. And like, look, I could try and cold call you, Harry, but maybe you just like never answer your phone, or I can try and message you on LinkedIn, but you don't actually like ever go on LinkedIn. But maybe, hey, your best means of communication is through email. So that means like, okay, I've now tried you on three channels, but the third one is the actual one that will get you. So I encourage all of my clients to have like a multi-touch and multi-channel approach, so you can find the person just like you would a buyer on the right medium and the right channel that resonates with them.
Have you noticed one mindset shift that some of your clients undergo that helps them land whatever role that they want?
Um, there's a couple different like ones I would say. I think like some people go through like some form of like imposter syndrome, where they don't necessarily feel like they're right for like an individual role. A lot of it's confidence. Like it takes a lot of look, at the end of the day, I would say it's not a product problem that we're dealing with here. It's really like a marketing problem. And once we're able to like get them to realize that, hey, you know, you might have had challenges in your job search in the past, but it's probably just the way that you've gone about marketing yourself. How can we shift that to retelling a better story, rebranding yourself, articulating the why? So, for example, I'm a big believer in interviewing is a lot like dating, and like you'd never want to like talk bad about your ex on a date. So, like, show that you're running towards something as opposed to running away from something. Really, like, it could change the whole dynamic of what that conversation looks like. So, those are some of the tweaks that we found that once we were able to register that the right way, makes all the difference in the world.
That's actually fantastic. It's refreshing to hear from candidates what their goals and aspirations are versus what they hated about their other jobs. Um, and I do get that a lot. I get that feedback a lot from different candidates that we have to interview for the firm. So if you're a candidate looking for a job out there, pay attention to that, because that little shift can really help reframe your employer, your prospective employer's decision and judgments about your ability to perform in whatever your role you're applying for.
Oh, for sure. And like to like just add on to that, you have to like think as well, like what's probably going through your mind. And Harry, let me know if this is true. Is like if they are complaining about like a past role or like where things are at, do you ever have it in your mind where you're just like, well, wait, are they just going to complain here once like they get into a job?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you have a small window of opportunity to interact with the person to see if they're going to be the right fit for the role and the team. And so if you come in hot with one of those kinds of complaints, and all I'm sitting there thinking about is, oh my God, am I going to have to deal with somebody who comes into our team and tries to undo everything we've done because all they do is complain about their circumstances? And there are people like that. You can get past it. But if you do have that habit, a good place to start to snip that in the bud is a job interview.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it's like, you know, eliminating things like that. Like I'll tell people, you know, the reality is you're probably doing everything like 95% the right way. It's that 5% tweak of like, what can we adjust here that like really goes a long way to help like refine those stories.
Is there one thing that you found that somebody should never say in an interview or a tech sales job?
I mean, like, I think like, that's actually a really good question. Like the one thing, because I feel like there's a couple different things there. I think like, okay, essentially you never want like a lot of it's like positioning at the end of the day. So just being able to like show like don't ask about like things like, hey, like what is quota or like what's the culture like? These are kind of subjective here. What I would much rather do is like reposition questions So it actually makes you sound like you're more obvious, and like quota isn't that like big of an issue for you. So for example, if like you're a sales rep and you're asking like, what's the quota? How many people are hitting quota here? Like that's kind of just like, oh, he kind of has like more of like a defeatist mindset right now. Where like I would much rather like ask a question and just be curious, like, hey, what do you do to like make sure that like the top 10% of closers here like are on track for promotions? Now I'm like obviously putting myself the person's in the frame of thinking like, okay, he's already thinking like a top producer, or like how did top producers here get rewarded with like more time with management or things like that. Those are the ways that I like to ask it as well. Yeah, I find like if you say like what the culture is like, it's kind of subjective and it's kind of an awkward question to answer because you don't know who that recipient is. Are they on their way in? Are they on their way out? Maybe they had a bad meeting with their boss that day. I would more ask them a bit like, hey, what drew you to this company? Or like, what's your favorite part about working here? Those ways that it's more of an optimistic style tone.
I actually love that. If a candidate asks me, how do you support your top 10% performers, or what's the promotion track for people who make it there? That's a big signal to me as an employer that this person is going to add value to the team, company, and everybody around them. That's that one little shift is would make me excited about the candidate almost immediately.
Ah, perfect. Yeah, no, see, a follow for more tips.
Well, on that topic, how can our listeners find you? How can they stay in touch? And how can they get value from your services?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So right now, my full website is being built out because I have a full like program that's about to release in the next month. But in the interim, find me on LinkedIn. It's just Scott Blostein. You'll also like I only post every day tips to help you get into the job cycle. So even if you don't like invest in my coaching program, there's still opportunities for you to learn and get some active tips to help you land your next job.
Awesome, Scott. Well, thank you for the conversation today, and hope you have a great day, and see you on the podcast some other time.
Awesome, Harry. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for joining us today on Harry Handles It. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and found some valuable takeaways. If you're facing challenges in your own life or business, remember that you're not alone. Together, we can handle anything that comes our way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you liked what you heard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and handling life with confidence.